And now, a holiday message from the President of the United States.
Ho, 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 ho. Yes, we've added a fourth ho. Biden only had three. We added a fourth. But we have to be vigilant this Christmas as Americans. As you know, Arctic immigrants are coming in through our chimneys and stealing our milk and cookies. I think that's where North Pole is, Arctic. We'll be looking into that. We're going to look into that.
There were occasional chuckles during SNL this weekend. Occasional. Okay, rare. But there were some funny ones. And welcome to Monday on the Chris Plant Show. The holiday edition. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Honored to be here. Thrilled to be here. As always, the Christmas show from SNL. That means they're not going to be back until sometime next year. And there were, I think, two moments I actually chuckled during the show. But the gentleman who does the Trump impression, I guess his job is safe for 3 more years because they tend to start the show with some sort of DC commentary that slams the president, and then they move on to other things, which usually include like a game show and then a weird family scene during a holiday. There's not a lot of innovation. Although I have to give SNL props. I know this is really kind of weird that I tell you they were funny. But in the early part of the show, they did a pre-produced reimagining of Home Alone, the decades-old Macaulay Culkin film. And in this version, it turns into a horror film. And it's actually very funny and very bloody. If you listen to Chris Plant Show, you know how much Chris appreciates Monty Python. And there were some very bloody Monty Python sketches in the past. The Black Knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail comes to mind. But the reimagined Home Alone sketch, it's on the internet. You don't have to go back and watch the entire broadcast of Saturday Night Live, but you can find it. It's meant to be a comedy, and occasionally this weekend it was. So there it is. It's a Monday, and it's a holiday week, but no shortage of news happening. As a matter of fact, since Friday and the late afternoon dump of the first tranche, that's the word the media always uses when it's a big load of stuff. The first tranche of the Epstein documents happened, and there's a whole lot of discussion about this, as well as a few images that were released and then taken away. And, of course, the left is freaking out, and they're already demanding that Pam Bondi be impeached, and there are some people on the right that want Pam Bondi impeached as well. We'll get into that. We'll get into as much of it as we can. But after the Epstein files, there was the unveiling of the renaming of the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. And the left is absolutely apoplectic. We're going to have some fun with that because they just don't understand. The Trump derangement syndrome sufferers, do not understand. He's trolling them. He's absolutely trolling them. It's delicious for me. By the way, if you want to join us at any time, 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. We will also cover some of the happenings from the several days of Turning Point USA's event this past weekend. J.D. Vance wrapped it up with a very well-received address to the faithful. And, you know, that's the right term. A lot of times when political conventions get together, people say, well, the faithful attended. Well, in this case, they really are faithful people. These are people who wear their faith on their sleeves, and they're not ashamed or afraid of it. And it's kind of nice to see from my point of view. But you had a host of very interesting speakers there. And there were a couple of instances that we saw before the weekend cracked where some of the people on the right may have been taking pot shots at each other. In other words, shooting back words at other conservatives, or so-called conservatives. And the left jumped on that and said, oh, MAGA is fighting. There's infighting in MAGA. Well, yeah, that's called having different opinions. That's called being adult enough to talk about different things with each other. It's that simple. Yeah, it's really easy. When you're not a bunch of penguins, you you allow different opinions, and you can disagree without being disagreeable. You can disagree without canceling someone. And the vice president talked about that as well. He talked about the fact that, we don't have to cancel each other. But it is kind of interesting to watch the left react. They tried to gin up the internal war, as they called it, the infighting in MAGA. Is MAGA over? Are they firing back at each other? No. Differences of opinion handled this way. It's unique to these people. So they're not going to grasp it right away. They're not going to fully understand what the heck they saw, because they're used to being told what to do, to getting their talking points memos and getting on with it. The president is also going to make an announcement today at 4:30 Eastern time. What's it going to be? What is the president going to tell the nation at 4:30 today? I wonder. Is it a new executive order? We are day 337 of the Trump administration. I got a little desk calendar that tells me how many days we're into the second Trump term, 2.0, 337. And the president has already signed 225 executive orders in the first 337 days. Now, that's more than he did in his first term. In Donald Trump's first term, he signed 220 executive orders, and in the first year of the second term, he has surpassed that. Now, some of those the left is going to fight in the courts and get shut down, and they'll be successful in some ways, or they'll delay things. And then if there ever is another Democrat president, it's likely that person will come in on day one and just sign an executive order that says anything Donald Trump signed is void. They'll do that. That's how this works. But I wonder what the president's going to talk about today. Maybe we'll get a little update on it. We also need to discuss the outrage from the left, of course, because the offendinista class, that is the part of the left side of the mainstream media, and their followers, their devotees, they're upset that 60 Minutes pulled a story about 2 hours before the show was supposed to air last night. And they're hooting and hollering, which really makes me laugh when I think about this. 60 Minutes is upset that Barry Weiss said, no, we're not going to do that story. As a matter of fact, we're pulling the story really briefly before the show. 2 hours before airtime. What could be so controversial? What was so curious? What was so disturbing that Barry Weiss, who's in charge of 60 Minutes, because that's her job now. She's over all that. But here's how the story was supposed to open.
It began as soon as the planes landed. The deportees thought they were headed from the U.S. back to Venezuela, but instead they were shackled, paraded in front of cameras, and delivered to CCOT, the notorious maximum security prison in El Salvador, where they told 60 Minutes they endured 4 months of hell.
Did you think you were going to die there?
We thought we were already the living dead, honestly.
So that story gets pulled 2 hours before it's supposed to take air. And Barry Weiss, who's now the editor-in-chief of CBS News, which means she's over 60 Minutes, said, no, we're not doing this. And why did she say that? She said it because she apparently wanted a balanced story and not one that had questions for these detainees that 60 Minutes managed to interview that were obviously leading questions. The correspondent, someone named Sharon Alfonsi, accused her boss of censorship and destroying the 60 Minutes 50-year reputation. Excuse me? 60 Minutes 50-year reputation? Wasn't that destroyed, I don't know, about 14 months ago when you guys actually edited an interview with Kamala Harris to try and make her sound smart? Wasn't there a gigantic legal filing from the Trump family and campaign over media manipulation? Really interesting. The order, the direction from Barry Weiss was get more support for another side of the story. For example, maybe an interview with Stephen Miller or someone else from inside the Trump organization about the story, giving clarification. Alfonsi, the reporter, Sharon Alfonsi, is saying, "Oh no, that gives the government a kill switch for inconvenient stories." Inconvenient stories? Don't we know that we've been sending these people to this prison for just about a year now? Yeah. And isn't this one of the winning issues that President Trump really has great support on? Getting the bad guys out of the country and sending them to these places, and then over almost 2 million of them self-deporting. Barry Weiss was one of the people who was involved in the Twitter files exposing the previous administration's pressure on social media outlets, including the demand to censor certain content. No, Barry Weiss is someone who wants it all out there, but the left can't stand it. They're going to try and make this a big deal today. It's really interesting to me. I wonder if they're going to really choose to die on this hill. We will see. But as I said, it's a show jammed with stuff. We have to go over some of the reactions to the change of the name at the Kennedy Center, now the Donald J. Trump and John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Oh, it's really got the left freaking out. And as I said, there's just a ton of other stuff that happened over the weekend, and we'll have some fun with it, as well as we're ramping up towards the Christmas holiday. Before we go to break here, let's check in. First call of the week, first call of the show. Let's check in with Mike in Gainesville, Virginia. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Good Monday morning, Michael Opelka.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, Pam Bondi seems to be missing the deadline on protecting the victims for like 10 months now. I don't know how it takes so long to keep redacting out the names of the victims, and somehow the redactions just expand to being everybody. That work product could have been put out 29 days ago. If they're just going to redact 70 pages completely, that doesn't take more than an afternoon to do if you're just going to black everything out. But she doesn't seem to be protecting the victims very, very well without just making it impossible to know who all the Johns are in this Epstein file. It's just amazing that the names, except for Bill Clinton, in a hot tub, it's just amazing that Pam doesn't seem to recognize that she's breaking the law now.
Well, I do think she's up against a really tough challenge. I want all this out there, but I also understand she has to protect the victims. But I don't want anybody who was a visitor or a participant or a client of Jeffrey Epstein to have any protection. They shouldn't have any. And I think most of us agree on that. So do you think, Mike, that the call for Pam Bondi to be moved out or to have her resign or even be impeached, which that's being discussed, do you think that's going to happen?
Well, it certainly should be the talk of the town in town. But, I just don't understand why there isn't like a Bondi cam where we get to see what she actually does all day, every day. She doesn't seem to be able to do.
That's very
anything
interesting.
other than just sort of fumble the job. She keeps being given this job on the Epstein files, and she just keeps fumbling it like it's something she can't handle properly. It's a hot potato, and she doesn't have the cooking capability to not burn herself with it somehow.
You know what it tells me? Mike, with your cooking analogy, you've just kind of tapped into something. I think there are probably a couple of different spatulas that keep getting put into the pot that Pam Bondi is trying to stir. And when you've got a whole lot of people trying to mess with the recipe, it never works out well. It's very frustrating, very difficult. She may not survive this one, career-wise. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant. Join us, 888-630-9625 on The Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show, the Monday before Christmas, December 22nd. Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plant. I'm here all week, God willing, and we'll try and get to everything in the news. I realize I barely touched on some of the stories that are out there. Not only the Epstein files, not only the changing of the name of the Kennedy Center, the addition of Donald Trump's name, the TP USA event. We grabbed another oil tanker, another Venezuelan ghost tanker, and there's a third one we're chasing down. And we also struck a lot of terror sites in Syria over the weekend. It's a very busy kinetic action weekend. We'll get to all that and also your calls as well. Fayez is calling from Tampa, Florida this morning. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show, Fayez.
Hi, good morning.
What's up? What's on your mind?
Hi, but for Pam Bondi to get off this critical position that she's in to protect the victims and in the same time expose the criminal, all what we need or all what she can do is to put the age of every girl on any picture on the picture. This girl, black her face, and put her age, she was 15 at the time of this picture. Then we drag the jerk who is this victim on the picture to court. What are you doing on a jacuzzi with a 14 years old?
That's an interesting idea. I wonder about the statute of limitations, and I wonder, I would like to see all, like I said, and like you said, these jerks all exposed for what they took part in. There's no way to defend stealing the innocence of these young women. No way. And they truly are pedophiles. I just want them all out there and exposed. Maybe Pam Bondi's trying to find a way. Sure feels like it's a lot of foot dragging, though. We'll get into this a little bit more. It's Michael Pelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for my friend Chris Plant, enjoying some holiday time, I'm sure, and hopefully a whole lot of holiday cheer. You, of course, are always welcome to join us at 888-630-9625. The lovely Jasmine attending to the phones, so behave yourselves. But she's ready for you anyway. We have a lot to get to today. There are a whole bunch of news, including anticipation of what the president might say at 4:30 today when he is going to speak from the Oval Office. I'm trying to watch everything. And it's like playing news whack-a-mole. We always think the week from Christmas and then the week between Christmas and New Year will be slow. And then it never is. Something always happens. Always. And this year, no exception. TPUSA wrapped up its big event over the weekend, Turning Point USA, gigantic event, and kind of looked like a younger version of CPAC, for those of you who know the Conservative Political Action Convention that happens, and drew quite the big names to the event. One of those is Nicki Minaj, rapper, singer Nicki Minaj, that a lot of people were very surprised to see Nicki Minaj addressing the faithful. Now, she has said some very positive things about the president in the recent months, which is great. That's great. We like to see people come out of the entertainment world, especially popular entertainment world, not aging sitcom stars. That's great. Not old SNL stars like Rob Schneider, who also gave an incredible speech at Turning Point USA. But to see somebody considerably younger and still in the mainstream speaking, that's just a little bit of what Nicki Minaj said to the folks at Turning Point USA.
I have the utmost respect and admiration for our president.
Now, measured, yes, and I was wondering, why is she speaking so slowly? I think it's because of the echo in the giant hall where this was being held.
He has, I don't know if he even knows this, but he's given so many people hope that there's a chance to beat the bad guys and to win and to do it with your head held high and your integrity intact.
Now, I never thought I would be talking about Nicki Minaj espousing the Make America Great, America First principles, and it was carried all over. Yeah, it was on Rumble, but it was also picked up by a lot of the conservative media. That's great. But talking about holding your head high, she gave clarification because she understands what Donald Trump's been through.
He's from Queens, New York, like me. So, but what it's shown me personally is sometimes, you know, even in the worst feeling times in your life, you think that you're never going to come back from it. But you do. And our president shows that. He's been through every single thing a person can be through publicly.
When you think about it, she's absolutely right. President Trump was almost killed on national TV during the event in Butler, Pennsylvania, a year and a half ago. He was indicted and booked very publicly. His trial was carried publicly. Every time he speaks, and that was before he was reelected again, but every time he speaks, thousands of people show up. His life has been hanging out there. This is really, I think this is a very important moment. A woman of color who's part of the entertainment world speaking glowingly of the President of the United States, who so many on the left just want to trash him every day.
Having to constantly be lied on. It's not really that funny. Until you are in that person's shoes that's being lied on, you'll never understand what it feels like. That person is a human being. They have a family who has to read those lies. And that's not, and it's just not fair.
Now, this is interesting to me because the expression, that person is being lied on, that's street language. That's not correct grammar. You're being lied about. They are lying about you. But when they say they're lying on you, that means they're telling lies about you. Yes, that's what Nicki Minaj is saying, and she's actually right. So I guess we're hoping that this got out to more people than just those who attend, more than the conservative faithful at the Turning Point USA event. And maybe this is being heard in a broader spectrum of community. A little bit more from Nicki Minaj. I really thought this was one of the great points of this conference.
But this administration is full of people with heart and soul. And they make me proud of them.
Interesting, because you will never hear that on MS-13 now. You'll never hear that. This administration of people is full of people with heart and soul who make Nicki Minaj, a person of color, a woman of color, proud.
Our vice president, he makes me Well, I love both of them, but they're both powerful men, smart, strong, all of that, but both of them have a very uncanny ability to be someone that you relate to.
And that is why President Trump was elected. That is why there's a great chance J.D. Vance may be a candidate that gets the nomination in 2028. He is relatable. The people can relate to J.D. Vance. He speaks the way they speak. Just interesting. I've got more from the Turning Point USA event. We'll share with you some of what Rob Schneider said, because I thought, again, here's a guy. Most of us knew Rob Schneider from Saturday Night Live, Hans and Franz. No, that wasn't him. Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo. He was the copier guy, right? He was playing goofy characters, and then suddenly he had an awakening in the last couple of years. It spoke very clearly from his heart. And as I said, the conference was wrapped up with J.D. Vance yesterday. We'll dig into that and share some of those moments because they were very good. But the phones are also very busy today. 888-630-9625. Cole is calling from Virginia. Cole, welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. So I had 2 quick points. First, on the renaming of the Kennedy Center, I just think Trump just should have been more magnanimous and say, hey, I appreciate it. Yes, I'm doing all these things for this so we can have, a great venue to display, those individuals in the arts. I appreciate it, but thank you. We'll just keep it the Kennedy Center. So that was just one thing. The other thing is yes, I do think there's some people in the deep state, probably within the FBI, that might be trying to protect some of the things with the release of the Epstein files. However, what most people don't understand, when you got thousands and thousands of photos and video and documents, I don't know all the names in there. I don't know who all the who the people are in there. If I don't know names of who they are, I can't even validate that they were underage at the time of those writings, those pictures, those videos. I have no idea. And it's not as easy as you can just throw that into Google and go do an image search, because the way they looked then may not be how they look now. It's considerably difficult. And Pam Bondi's under 2 things. One, you had to release all the files by last Friday. The other part of that law states you need to protect victims. So if you have no idea if they were underage at the time of those, when those things were taken, I could be violating the law unknowingly, because it could be a victim, and then now you're risking yourself a lawsuit for that. So there's many parts to it. So I get people's issues to complain about it, but they don't realize you got tens of thousands of documents, photos, videos, what have you, that just take time to properly vet. Now, if they're doing it in earnest, that's fine. But if you're doing it because you're trying to protect the ruling class establishment, well, that's another issue.
Well, I get what you're saying, but we also, and I play devil's advocate on this, on the Pam Bondi issue. When you have documents that have been around for years, and in some cases decades, been involved in legal procedures for decades, it's not like this is something we just had a box of files dropped on the steps of the DOJ. No, these have been around for quite some time, and yes, they were around under different administrations. And you've also known that this law was, and you knew how the law was written, saying you're going to have to, once the law is signed, you got 30 days to release the stuff. And they could have been working on all this because they knew the way public sentiment and the media pressure was going. This bill was going to pass, and you were going to have to put it out there. And yeah, you're right. You can do blanket redactions, which we've seen. How many pages are just black lines, completely blacked out? But there is a way to do it. And I just think that the drips and drabs, the Friday late afternoon release raises everybody's eyebrows. And so I think we need to be better at this. And I think we can protect those people. And Pam Bondi she's in charge of the DOJ. So she'll have people backing her up, making sure she doesn't break the law. But this has been known for so long. And I'm tired of some of the theatrics that gave us nothing, the binders out in front of the White House. That was just silly. We're all a little tired of that. Now, on the Kennedy Center, you bring up a really interesting point, Cole, when you talk about that President Trump could have easily said, thank you, that's very nice. I don't want to do that. But let's be honest. The President of the United States, before he became president, put his name on everything. I lived in New York City. I lived just a few blocks from Trump Tower. And, you know, there are Trump golf courses. There are Trump buildings everywhere. So I don't know if he would have been able to turn that down. But don't you think he's trolling the Democrats just a little bit, Cole? Don't you think he's kind of pulling their leg a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You know, he's just trying to poke the bear, and I get it. And yes, he does put his name on everything. He puts the Trump stamp everywhere.
Yeah, that's his thing.
But
it's not a surprise.
Right, but so that's what would have made it a surprise, right?
Good point.
Why not do it that?
Well, there were several members of the Kennedy family who were not who were not happy about it and posting online saying, how dare you do this? And then there were people that were quick to respond by saying, if you're speechless and enraged about this, let's not forget where Teddy Kennedy parked his car in Chappaquiddick a while back, and they posted photos of the car in the water. So if the Kennedys really want to be outraged and talk about what a horrible person President Trump is, maybe they should stop pointing fingers, because there's 3 pointing right back at them for every finger they're pointing out at people. That one always makes me laugh. But thank you, Cole. Appreciate it. It's very kind of you. Thanks for joining us. We have so much more that I want to get to today. While we're talking about the Kennedy Center and the renaming of the Kennedy Center, I mentioned Saturday Night Live earlier. Michael, I think you have the clip. SNL actually used the renaming of the Kennedy Center to try and mock President Trump, but I was kind of curious about this one.
I wanted to ramble to you tonight about the incredible things this administration is doing. We're doing wonderful stuff. We are renaming the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, which will now be called the Trump Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, no homo.
I'm not sure I understand the last part of that. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. What was that meant to be? The Trump Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and I believe they said no homo, and they actually had a recreation of the building. Huh. Maybe you can explain it. 888-630-9625. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. And a Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show, kicking off Christmas week. I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, taking Christmas Day off, of course, to celebrate the birth of Jesus and probably watch football or basketball. It's amazing how many big professional sports events are now happening on what used to be a very solemn day. Celebrations, too, but very solemn. A couple of things wrapping up this first hour that caught my attention in the news. This was kind of a weird story out of the New York Post headline. Late night takes hard left turn with 7,000 Trump jokes, gags, and targeting of conservatives, up 92%. Why are you shocked? President Trump returns to the White House, and guess what? Late night is more left than ever. According to the media watchdog, our friends over at Newsbusters, they went through 818 episodes of late-night television. God bless them. God bless the people at Newsbusters. They had to watch Jimmy Kimmel and Colbert and Fallon and Myers and The Daily Show. And there were 197 liberal guests and only 2 conservatives. 197 liberal guests, 2 conservatives. There were 12,011 jokes about conservatives. Jokes meaning they were attempts to be funny, but they weren't all funny, obviously. 12,011 jokes about conservatives. And jokes about President Trump, just President Trump himself, 7,045 jokes about President Trump. Guess how many? Close your eyes. Not if you're driving. Guess how many jokes there were on late night TV about liberals? 982. If you guess 982, you can come pick up your prize. Just unbelievable. And when you look at the 2 conservative guests that were on late night, one of them was Greg Gutfeld. And the other was an economist named Orrin Cass, who was on The Daily Show. But that's it. That's it. They brought Orrin Cass on The Daily Show to talk about Trump's tariffs back in April. And I'm sure they absolutely trashed the idea of tariffs, although all the members of the military who got their $1,776 checks last week probably wouldn't agree with the trashing of the tariffs. But Gutfeld and an economist named Orrin Cass, the only 2 people to appear on late-night television in the past year. What an amazing increase, up 92%, the targeting of conservatives by the mainstream media. But what does the left want to do? Oh, they want to really go in and police the media. We're going to talk about that coming up because there is now a push. AOC, Hillary Clinton, not just around the countries of the world. I know the UK wants to sit on free speech. So does Australia. So does any country that's been overrun by radical Islamists. But here in America now, the left, even though they had a 92% increase in attacks on conservatives on late-night TV, the liberal media coming after free speech, your free speech. I happen to be a free speech absolutist, so I'm one of those people who will protect it until my dying breath. We're going to try and make sure that First Amendment stays protected by the Second Amendment.